First news today, we're in a cilantro field. Cilantro, well, you ought to know about that because we enjoy a lot of that in our part of the world. But you know, it's a very popular crop all over the world. And the man who knows about that is Rick Rademacher. Rick's the Southern Regional Manager for a company called Cilantro American. And Rick, before we talk about cilantro, I think we ought to talk a little bit about Cilantro. They're a worldwide company, aren't they?
Well, we do all our production from United States, California, and Arizona, but we do have customers in the Pacific Rim and Europe, so that puts us around the world.
It sure does, and that means that you really have to stay with it. And you deal with numbers, dozens of different vegetables, don't you?
Yeah, we've got quite a few products that we deal with, and each one of them has its own unique way of being handled.
And that's what we wanted to do, folks. We wanted to talk about these crops. We're in a cilantro field. Let's talk about cilantro. Is this a difficult or easy crop to grow?
It's really fairly easy to grow. It grows very quickly, and there's not many bugs that want to eat that stuff because it has a pretty fragrant smell to it. But herbicides are a problem. It's a minor use crop, and so there aren't any herbicides that really work well for it.
So the weeds, in other words, the herbicides is what we're talking about, folks, and weeds are a problem.
Yeah, weeds are a problem. We have to keep the weeds down throughout the crop because they do attract other insects.
Now these workers are again doing a similar type thing we see. We saw parsley and we've seen spinach and others. They do a similar type operation, don't they?
Yeah, they gather up the product and bunch it and sort out any defects or dried leaves or things like that, and put a rubber band around each bunch, and that's the bunch that you would buy. Then they pack so many in the box, or they'll pack it in a plastic bag, and then we put several plastic bags in the box also.
Now these boxes that these men are picking up will go to a cooler where they're cleaned.
They'll go to a cooler, and they'll be hydrocooled, which means water is forced through the product, and then it's cooled and the excess water is pulled out.
Now we clean these as best we can, but we always recommend to people when you get a bunch of this that you should clean it again at home, right?
Yeah, it's always a good idea, but we have some pretty strict food safety rules that we follow here for hand washing and sanitation in the field itself.
Now Rick, this is what we call a row crop, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a row crop. We plant it on rows and watered and fertilized it and cultivated in the row.
Is it all flood irrigated, or do you start this with sprinklers?
We start this crop with sprinklers, and we take it to a certain point and then pull the pipe out and then water it with furrows from then on.
Now what about the workers here? Do they also act as quality food people here in the field? Do they not pick some that does not look so good?
Each person that handles that product is a quality control inspector.
Okay.
If they see something they don't like or something that doesn't fit our standards, it's tossed out and left in the field.
Will it be inspected any time from here to the time it reaches the consumer?
I'm sure there's some inspections, and especially if it's an export deal, there'll be a final sanitation certificate issued on it. But it is checked several times.
Now, Rick, this will be the same bundle that the folks in the grocery store will see, isn't it?
That's the one. That's the one you're going to take home, what they see put the rubber bands around.
I notice they ice it up in the grocery store. But what about the fact that people say, boy, hey, it's right here in the field. Why don't you just sell it to me here locally?
Well, it's a matter of efficiency of distribution. We sell to some pretty big customers, and their distribution system is set up a certain way that they think is the most efficient. And it may go to LA and then back to the East Coast, or it may go straight to a distribution point in the Midwest or the East Coast and then go to individual stores from there.
So from here to LA and then back, huh?
It may well be, yeah.
Rick Rademacher is the Southern Regional Manager for a fine company called Cilantro American, and we're telling you about the many different types of vegetables that they grow. I'm George Gatley in the field with Rick Rademacher on KYMA First News Today.